His name is Josh Perry, and he was a professional BMX athlete, competed in the X Games, and learned how to follow his passions. He's been his own business owner for over a year. He's been working as a holistic health coach, and he's here to tell us a little bit about his own leadership journey and a little bit about how he was able to turn his passion into a career. So here's Josh Perry.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize, I'm getting over a cold, so get my voice back. But it's great to be here at UF again, and thanks, Ben, for inviting me back. It's a pleasure to be back. And again, my name is Josh Perry. I'm a former professional BMX athlete, and today I want to share my journey of how I've led my own life to manifest my dreams into reality and how I've taken a plethora of adversities and turned them into a business. So I'm originally from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, born and raised, and like most kids on the Cape, I got into baseball at a very young age, t-ball. And I progressed as the years went on to Little League, and I started playing basketball. And I think it was about like 9, 10, or 11 or so, I started wandering off to the skate parks with rollerblades, skateboards, and then eventually saw X Games and saw BMX bikes. Saw some of my older friends that were riding BMX bikes, and I thought it was awesome. So I slowly got away from the school sports, started riding more and more. And just like any other sport, competition is a major aspect of it. So with BMX, the next step was competition. So I started getting into local amateur contests and doing fairly well. And then that progressed to the regional amateur contests, and then the nationals, and so on and so forth. And at the same time that I was getting away from school sports, when I got into high school, I went to a technical high school for landscaping because prior to that I'd been working for a friend of the family who owned his own landscaping business. So it was drilled in my head, work hard for the life you want and to earn your money. And so I really enjoyed landscaping, and so I went to a technical high school for it. And it wasn't until my sophomore year where I entered the co-op program that allowed you to go to work for 2 weeks, get credit, make money, and then go back to school for 2 weeks. So I did that for a while, and I kind of abused that later on in my sophomore year and my junior year to where I wasn't going to school as much and I was just working. And at the same time, I was traveling, competing, and now actually that year my junior year, moved into the professional ranks, and I'm also working full-time, at this point. I dropped out of high school. And I'm taking Fridays off, taking Mondays off to compete. And I got an ultimatum from my boss one day, and it's cheesy to say, but it was like the most profound, life-changing moment or choice that I had I not taken that, I'd be very successful at home. I was being trained in school and on the job to learn the business and start my own one day. But I got this ultimatum. My boss was like, Josh, so I'm stoked for you. You're doing well. You're traveling. You're making a little bit of money now. You're having success. You're one of my main guys. I need you here. You're taking days off here and there. I can't really replace you, especially season's coming. You're busy. So what's it going to be? BMX or working for me? And so I like the word. I was getting set up for the almighty American dream. Would have been able to have my own business, make good money, especially landscape here in Cape Cod. Have a family, have a home, and all that good stuff. But that choice, looking back on it now, there's things that happened that would have made that a little bit different, I think. But because I was so young and I was so passionate, in my mind, I didn't have that opportunity later on. When I was 30, ironically next week, I'm still riding, but when I'm 40, setting out on that BMX path wouldn't have been a reality to me. So it was a no-brainer. I just was like, thank you, but I'm gonna take this route. I'm not gonna have an opportunity later to do it, and I'm passionate about it, I love it, so I'm gonna give it a shot. My parents supported me in it. They supported me dropping out of high school, and so I moved 13 hours south to Greenville, North Carolina, where my first living experience on my own was renting a storage closet in the ECU apartment of my best friend. On a blow-up mattress with my clothes next to me on this side, my shoes on the rack upstairs, above me, and then my bike downstairs. And I did that for a couple months, and along that journey for the next couple of years, so that was 2007, and then the next 2 or 3 years, I had a lot of success in BMX. As Ben mentioned, I was in X Games. At the time, there was this 5-stop series called the Do Tour. I'm sure many of you have heard that. It's no longer a thing for these BMX. But I was, doing really well in that. Traveling the world, I'm being paid by sponsors to just be me and ride my bike, my passion, my love. And I was on TV for contests, even America's Got Talent one year. And I'm literally living the dream. But at the same time, I had this sense of freedom. I'm living on my own. I can do what I want. I can go to bed when I want. I'm out drinking at a young age. I'm partying. I'm hanging out with girls. I'm hanging out with pros. I'm living the ECU life outside of school, and it's going great. I'm friends with some of my heroes, and they're my mentors now. My friends, my competitors. I'm just eating all sorts of junk food and just copious amounts of sugar. It's a miracle I get diabetes, but we do have more branches. But that sense of freedom really lacked the discipline in important areas of my life, except for BMX. And reflecting on it now, I could have had a lot more success. I don't regret anything, but just as you learn and grow, you see things, and I could have had a lot more success had I had more discipline. So in that 2009 season, I went into the emergency room in urgent care so many times with these debilitating headaches and migraines and vomiting from them and vision loss and classic brain tumor symptoms. And each and every time I went in there, I said, hey, should we do some kind of scan, an x-ray, MRI, CAT scan, I don't know, like you're the doctor, like something to look at my brain. And he kept telling me, no, you're young. Yeah, at this point, I had just turned 21 in November, so 2009, and then 2010, I just turned 21. Some of the last times I went in there, he's like, no, you're young, you're healthy, you're in shape, you're an athlete, blood work checks out, paperwork checks out, you just have headaches. So many people have headaches. It's normal. Here's some pain pills. I can tell you the amount of pain pills they prescribed me. I didn't take them. I had a traumatic experience when I was younger. It made me throw up. Ironically, the last time I went in there, it was so bad I did take them. Thankfully, I wasn't driving on the way home because the one and only time in my life I projectile vomited inside the car. We had to pull over, of course, and it just kept coming out and it turned into this deep, dark red blood. And I'm on my hands and knees on the side of the road, just surrounded by my own blood, thinking I'm literally dying. And we weren't even a mile away from the doctor's office, and they just told me I'm fine. You just have headaches. And now I'm waiting for a lung or something to pop out, and I'm just confused. I'm like, man, I'm like literally afraid for my life. And so, we got home, I'm still just doing whatever. I'm not taking the pain pills, of course. And it was like a week or two later, at this point, the headaches were so on and off, the pain was so on and off, it just hit or miss. Some days I'm riding on pure muscle memory and passion to ride. So, you wake up, your eyes are foggy, you kind of rub them, it doesn't go away. Anyone ever experienced that? So imagine that all day. It doesn't go away. That's how it started, and it progressed to where I couldn't even see my own hand without seeing just a ton of them. But one day, it wasn't that bad, and I was riding, and I had learned this trick called a backward tail whip. So for you that don't understand BMX and the terminology, it's basically you do a backflip on your bike, you hang onto your handlebars, you jump off, kick the back end around, and you spin it. It's the best way I can explain it without showing you. But I was learning a variation of the foam pit. Back then, we had the foam pit and the real ramp, no middle ground like we do now, padded ramps. So I felt really confident. I did it 10 times in a row, and I was like, all right, next thing, let's go do it on the ramp. And ironically, I was scared of under-rotating because I was coming out of the foam pit to the real ramp, so I pulled a little hard for the rotation and the flip. Over-rotating, got sent to my side, whiplash to my head, and knocked out. At this point, can anyone guess what was required next? MRI. So now, all of a sudden, an MRI is required and deemed necessary. So I get this MRI, and I'm just sitting there, again, by myself, just, all right, I say routine MRI for a concussion. And I'm just sitting there just waiting just to get the report. And I'll never forget the doctor walks in and says, hey, Josh, get the MRI report. No swelling, no bleeding. That checks out. But there's something in your brain that shouldn't be there. And I'm thinking, what? Like, I didn't put anything in there. Like, what possibly in my brain, besides my brain, And he followed it up, with, so it's, we don't know if it's benign or cancerous. At that point, my heart sunk. Like, okay. And he's like, it's a brain tumor. It's a fairly large brain tumor. I can show all you guys the MRI later. But it's taking up a good portion of the left side of your brain. Now, if you want a shot at living, you're going to have surgery immediately. You'll probably never ride your bike again, and walking and normal things are going to be really difficult. At that point, everything's shut down. I just heard cancer, never going to ride your bike again, you may die. And I don't know if anyone's ever experienced something like that, but the best way I can explain it is in two ways. People talk about out-of-body experiences. Well, that was the first for me. It was real. I could hear, I could see everything for a certain point, but then it just felt like it wasn't real. And I wasn't in my body anymore. I'm just watching this horror movie of my life unfold. And now the other part of how I can explain this is first I felt broken because I don't really understand how to explain the emotions that were coming in. There's so many emotions flying in and out: fear, anxiety, stress, worry, doubt, embarrassment, victim mentality. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? On top of my dream, I'm living it and it's not even taken away from me. Like, why? What did I do? And once that settled down, I kind of ran out. They tried to stop me and all that stuff, but I just couldn't be there anymore. And I went and met with a top neurologist or neurosurgeon in the world. I did some Googling and found an hour and a half from me at Duke University was Dr. Alan Friedman. And went and met with him, next steps, what are we gonna do about this? And he looked at it, he's like, oh, this is a big tumor. It's been a while since I've seen one this size. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. But he was really confident to take it out. And the way he was describing it and everything, I just felt safe. And so I went through the surgery. It was 6 hours. It was supposed to be 4, but there was some complications. The tumor had wrapped around the main artery and my optic nerve, so that took some time. And I remember filling out, because I'm 21 at this point, filling out paperwork, just signing off on a whole list of things, which the highlights were death, paralysis, bleeding out, being blind, and the list goes on. And so I wake up from surgery the first time in about a year and a half without pain. Granted, I'm on a heavy dose of drugs, but as they wore off, there's still no pain. So I was very surprised and pleased. And I woke up, and the first thing I saw was my brother, my mom, my dad, and some friends. I was like, all right, cool, I can see. And I started talking, I could hear. I was like, all right, these things are working, I can move. And something I haven't really shared too often was, I remember waking up, and I was like, man, this is good. But I gotta go to the bathroom. And my mom was like, just go. I was like, what do you mean? I gotta get out of bed. She's like, no, you have a catheter, don't worry about it. And I remember looking down, this is like an hour or two out, and I'm still a little loopy. And I looked down, I was like, what? I tried to pull it out, and they stopped me, thankfully. But I eventually got over that. But yeah, that was a crazy experience. But it was like one of the best moments of my life, waking up and seeing my younger brother and my mom and dad and some of my friends that were there with me. And to my surprise, the skull only takes 4 weeks to fuse back together. Anyone know that? Yeah, so I thought I was the best case scenario, going to be recovered for a year. Back in my life in 5 weeks, competing an additional 7 to 8 weeks after that, got 8th place, my first contest back in England. So I was stoked. I was, had this whole new appreciation for life and this perspective on life and gratitude, and I'm back living my dream. And I should mention 2 things that helped me turn that fear into motivation or 3 things to get over, that obstacle of surgery and that fear was, 1, my mom battling colon cancer forever and always having a smile on her face and being great today and healthy. And seeing her do that and I being a byproduct of her, I know I could do it. Number 2 was Lance Armstrong and his story, whether people are a fan of him or not, if he cheated or not, that's all irrelevant because the fact of what he went through. I don't like to say anyone's better or worse situation because I don't think it's fair to judge other people's experiences, but in my mind, he went through brain, lung, and testicular cancer, came back, and just to get back to his sport, let alone win multiple times, is phenomenal. So I saw a bike rider and my mom get through some heavy shit in their life, and I felt like I could do the same thing. But also, I kept envisioning that life that I dreamed about, and I'm living, and so I had a little bit of a boost there because I'm currently living that dream. But I just kept thinking about it and just watching videos of me competing and film, videos that we had filmed and just envisioning that life, and I wasn't ready to stop living, and I wanted to do more. So as the years went on, for about 2 years, I started gaining my confidence back, getting back to my normal self, progressing again. And then I found myself in September of 2012 in India doing some demos with some friends. And I remember I got an MRI before I went, and I went out to India, and I got the report back, and it showed 2 new regrowths on the same side of my brain had come back. One in the front, one in the rear of the brain, and the surgeon said it was due to the complications of the optic nerve and the main artery. And he said not to worry, don't have to come home. I had 3 days left. He's like, don't come home yet. It's virtually nothing compared to the original. And if you're not having symptoms, there's no problem. So just finish your trip, come home, we'll assess it then. And he mentioned radiation. I watched my mom go through radiation. I've heard other horror stories, and I didn't like it. So did a lot of, went back to Dr. Google and found a technology called gamma knife radio treatment. The best way I can explain it is it's a non-invasive outpatient procedure that uses 180 degrees of radio wave beams and a computer to pinpoint a location that they can target the treatment, specifically with the brain and spinal cord. And the cool thing about it is it's a lesser degree of radiation that they can actually treat the same area twice if need be. And it doesn't damage surrounding tissues. So I went through that in November 2012 at Tufts Medical Center in Boston. And they asked me to take a couple days off just to make sure I didn't have any symptoms, which I didn't. So I started riding again. And again, I had this second, threat to my life and a second time to be grateful for my life and learned about nutrition and started making changes and got really passionate about it. And coming out of that treatment, I had a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence, and I filmed at the time was my most progressive video I'd put out. I had a trick list of all these things that I hadn't done, other people hadn't done in certain situations, setups, and I got it all done. And it was the most viewed video on the BMX sites that year. And going into the 2013 season, it was I think beginning of March, And I went to this contest. It was not a big contest, but it was the first one. And I had all this confidence, momentum, and I got really excited, and I did something I probably shouldn't have. And the best way I can explain it is a 6-foot tall ramp. It's got a 4-foot deck and another 4-foot railing over it. And I was jumping out of that ramp over the railing and turning 90 degrees into the other side of the skate park, landing in there. And the second time I tried it, my weight shifted, and I put my foot out just enough to where it caught the transition of the ramp. It turned, it went behind me, I looped out, and I sat on my knee. Instantly blew out my knee. Stood up, couldn't feel it, fell over, and then right then and there, the adrenaline wore off, the swelling kicked in, the pain kicked in, and my knee was shot. Thankfully, I'm so stubborn, I rode on it for 2 years with a knee brace, no MRI, no surgery, and just took 2 months off and got back in the normal season, and then the next 2 years just kept doing my thing. Didn't really understand the damage that was being done, even though that my hamstrings were strong enough to overcompensate the ACL injury. 2015 season, I'm gone for 3 months of the summer, doing some demos in Ohio at an amusement park called Cedar Point, making some extra money and just having some fun. And at the end of the season, I'm messing around in practice, doing like a technical trick, and I get a little off balance, put my foot up the same way. It does the same thing, but I don't loop out, I just keep riding. And I had a brace on, so it didn't destroy my knee. But that made me go get an MRI. The MRI report showed so your ACL should be like a thick white rope. The MRI report showed a spider web, it wasn't really there. And torn meniscus and 8 other things, including osteophytes, bone bruising, and early onset arthritis. And so I returned back to North Carolina to where I trained, and they actually hired 2 athletic trainers. One of the athletic trainers has been with us since 2005 or 6. The other one was her graduate, finishing up her degree in athletic training. Now is my girlfriend, we live together and share a life, so it's kind of cool that worked out. But she really convinced me to get the surgery. She kept, egging on about it, and I was like, I'm not gonna get it because I know the recovery process, and I got the contest season next year. I'll get it at the end of next year. I got the MRI now. We know what's wrong. We know it's been wrong. There's no need to fix it. I've been fine. And so she shared a lot of research with me, specifically on the ACL graft. So you can do a patellar tendon, you can do a cadaver, or a hamstring. I went with a hamstring, and if anyone's curious, I can talk about that later why. But I went through that, and I shared a lot of nutrition with her. At this point, I'm living a high-fat, low-carb diet for a lot of brain health reasons I've been learning about, and inflammatory effects and things like that. So her and I worked together for 2 months leading to surgery, which I'm extremely grateful for. Not most people have that opportunity on a torn ACL, but mind you, I took 2 months off and then rode for 2 years on it. So a little different situation, but going into that surgery, we did a lot of prehab. I got really in tune with my diet and cut out anything in my mind that created inflammation. So all grains, starches, sugars, alcohol, dairy, all that stuff was out. And so I was left with non-starchy vegetables, coconut oil, olive oil, and meats and things like that. And I didn't know I was following what's called a ketogenic diet, and so I can talk about that more later on. But when I came out of that surgery, the doctors were so surprised because my knee was half as swollen as a typical patient that comes out of that surgery. Therefore, the knee pain pills, another huge accomplishment. And day 2, so like the following day, they had me starting physical therapy, doing rehab, and specifically range of motion start. So I thought that was phenomenal. And that really, the next 3.5 months was just rehab 6 days a week, getting really in tune with my diet, learning more about nutrition. I was back on my bike just shy of 4 months, but they told me 6 months at least. And I won my first contest back, 5 months out of surgery. Won the best trick, which was a tribute to Dave Muir, who's no longer alive. And that was another great accomplishment and meant a lot to me. And then 7 months total out of surgery, I'm in Croatia, riding the first contest, major contest for me back, the World Championship Series. It's the second of 5 events. I missed the first one due to recovery. But I get 3rd place. And then I finished the year out in China at the finals, 10th overall in the world standings after missing one of the events. And that was just a huge accomplishment, and it was a manifestation of all the hard work and dedication that Jackie and I put in, mindset, nutrition, and physical, for that whole process. So, end of the year in China, October 2016, stoked. It was ironically my last contest competing, and after the contest, they do a best trick contest, and I landed what's my signature best trick, or signature trick that I'm the only one to do in competition up until today still. And so I went out with my contest season on a bay, didn't know that was going to be my last contest. That's what we're getting into next. So I came in 2017 just hyped. I had this sponsor that's paying for all my travel, putting me up in hotels. I'm making some money, I'm getting some good coverage, I'm seeing the world, living the dream again. And then comes February, an MRI, annual MRI report. 2 tumors that grew back and that were zapped from gamma knife, they shrunk for a couple of years, they're stable. But now I have 2 other ones on the opposite of my brain. I'm like, all right, cool. So first diagnosis was the why me, the victim mentality. what do I do? Second one, not so much. Third one, how do I use this to better my life and to better other lives? And that started the redirection of my purpose and really aligning my choices and my actions in my life to match that purpose. Now, I wasn't very clear on it, what I was going to do with it. I was still in competition mode, so the sponsor helped me. So all these cool plans to see the world again. And then it was April, a month before the first contest. A sponsor of mine, I'm not going to name them, got bought out by a big corporation. Ironically, dropped their athlete program, or funding, I should say. And there goes my salary, there goes my travel budget. A month before, and I can't find a sponsor that quick, you know? And I'm like, man, what do I do? Like, this sucks. And so I keep riding, and then all these different opportunities come up, and I'm finding myself sharing my story more. I'm coaching now, which is a whole other long story short. I can share it later, but I'm like doing these things that align with my vision and my purpose, my new vision, I should say, and that's to help people. So I don't want people to suffer and learn the hard way like I did. So I'm finding myself coaching now and speaking and all these things, and I'm like, all right, cool. So, you know, that ended up being like an obstacle that I turned into an opportunity, and that's ultimately why I'm here today. And the other piece to that diagnosis for the third time was, I've learned about this ketogenic piece more and more. And when they said that they think I have what's called neurofibromatosis, it's basically just a fancy way of saying a genetic disorder that creates spinal cord tumors and brain tumors. Thankfully, I just have the brain tumors, which is a really odd thing to say, but perspective is very important in any situation. So, it goes back to like, should it always be worse? Like that, I'm a firm believer of that. And unfortunately, my younger brother passed away a couple months ago, and I got a really good reality check of that perspective piece, and that shit could be worse. And whoever's a fan of Gary Vee here, can understand, like, you woke up today, you automatically won. You're in America, you're a step above. You got a phone and the internet, you're killing it. There's no excuses. So this whole journey has taught me a lot about perspective, and that's one of the most important things that I believe. And like I said, it's ultimately led me to create my own business. And I think it was that vision that I created for my life that gave me the fuel to set out my own journey and create my own path, take action, take risk, and then not give up on a daily basis. I just kept moving forward. I didn't care. I just want to keep progressing. And another great quote from Simon Sinek is, great leaders lead with why. They embody a sense of purpose that inspires those around them. All of these experiences have given me clarity in my why, ultimately leading me to share all I've experienced and learned along the way in an effort to help others. By starting with my why and bringing others value, I've created this sense of trust in others in a way that inspires action and action for change in their lives. My why started out as escaping a negative childhood fueled by spite to prove others wrong. I didn't come from a place that one could ever say I had any type of advantage despite people assuming I come from money because I'm from Cape Cod. Contrary to that, we grew up paycheck to paycheck, and everything I got I was extremely grateful for. On top of hard work was embedded into my DNA. And I just played the cards that I was dealt the best way I possibly could and made choices that aligned with my vision every single step of the way. There wasn't always success, but I don't see things as failures or not. I just see them as learning opportunities. And I kept, BMX taught me that very vividly in a more painful way than the majority of the population, but you fall down, you get up and try again. But let's problem solve. What didn't work? What worked? Let's move forward. So the last 8 years of my life has transformed my why from self to purpose. A purpose to help serve others so they can become as healthy, happy, and successful as possible. My fuel transformed from spite and anger to gratitude and love. Gratitude to be alive and to be able to have the opportunity to progress in my life, and love for my life and for the lives of others. It just takes one life to be inspired and moved to become a leader yourself. It could be a sibling, a friend, coworker, a complete stranger. It doesn't really matter. We're all capable of becoming a leader in our own way, and it's just a matter of our choices, the actions we take, and the beliefs and values that we share. I never set out to become a leader, nor did I ever fathom inspiring a single life along the way. I just set out on a dream. I shared my vision along the way, and I stayed true to my heart. I never gave up. I took nonstop action, and I reached out for support when I needed it. But ultimately, I just shared my experiences and learned what I learned every step of the way. In doing so, I've acquired a large, loyal, loving following. I've helped change the lives of others around the world. And I found myself leading a life I was told wasn't possible, all because I followed my heart and what I believed in. So I challenge all of you to design and lead the lives that you envision for yourself, because you may never know what's possible or how many lives you'll positively impact in doing so. I'm just a kid from Cape Cod with a dream, no money, no upper hand, and quite frankly, a lot of odds stacked against me. And I could have chosen a path of fear disguised as practicality, but I chose a path dictated by my vision. and yeah, I chose a path, dictated by my vision, even though other people told me it wasn't ever going to be possible. And I'm here to share my story with you because ultimately, like I said, I don't really come from any upper hand, and I believe that if I'm able to succeed, that anyone in this classroom, or room in general, or anyone in this country, if they have a vision and they set out and take the action, that they can succeed at it, and they can succeed at it as well. Because if I can, then any one of you can. So I appreciate your time. My name is Josh Perry, and that's my story.